Is that me?
Oh,
No.
is this real life?
Yeah,
Oh man,
exactly.
let's just sort of just rip right into
Yeah,
this.
it's working. It's working.
All right. Well, folks, it's been 2 weeks. No, we're not starting off with that. That Josh is going to kill himself, ritual suicide, and all that. Let me. You know what, Josh? Believe it or
It's not a
not,
bad idea.
I have
hmm
friends. I do. I have
That's
at
right.
least two of them besides
hmm
you. Uh,
hmm
and now one of them, he can't help it because he's my brother, but I have another
hmm
I
one who
was
actually
actually going to say saying friend
volunteers for
is
that.
friend is a
But
stretch.
for
Blood relation, yes.
wow. Well, that any nice things I was gonna say about you in the intro
Oh, I
are that
take
we're
it.
done. This is my show, and anyways, this is the backlog breakdown. I'm Nate, alongside my co-host Josh,
Hello.
and we have two guests on here tonight. We have
Yeah.
yeah, my brother from my mother, Deuce, who is Luke, but we call him Deuce because
Nice.
that's that's actually sort of a self-appointed nickname of sorts, kind of. But it
There's too
well,
many Lukes.
there's too many Lukes, and joining us
I'm a
again,
Josh. I understand that.
we had two Joshes on a couple of weeks ago, and that was
You should have told the other guy he's Josh too from now on. End of story. It's your show.
uh,
Well, instead, I got the nickname, which is
well,
Trash Josh, which is
that
fantastic.
actually that came from a much earlier recording. But we also have again, recurring guest Parker, friend of the show. Uh, say hello, boys.
Hi. Yeah.
Howdy.
All right. So before we jump into the meat and potatoes, Josh,
hmm
it is
hmm
absolutely time to visit your favorite segment of the show, where I
Yeah.
say
Our
it's been
backlog
2
report.
weeks since I
Oh.
talked to you.
Oh,
You're
that
welcome.
part.
Um, so you know, in lieu of, I guess I'll just sort of start us off. As far as my 2 weeks have last couple of weeks have been, it's just kind of been meh. It's work. Um, nothing. I mean, nothing terrible, but just
Mhm.
kind of things are sort of warming up. But then it's early spring in Pennsylvania, which
Yep.
means so one day will be 65, 70 degrees, and the next day 3 degrees with rain and sleet and wind
Wow.
and
Ugh.
snow.
Ugh.
Um,
Ugh.
it was like 23 degrees or something like that, but it was cold
Ugh.
and it snowed and it rained. Um,
Yeah.
it
It's
was
still
like
below
three.
freezing. It's all the same.
Yeah, it was like 3 inches in the space of like 4 hours or something. It was an unpleasant
Golly.
day. Um, but how have your last couple of weeks been, buddy?
Yeah, they've been pretty good. As I mentioned before, transitioning in the job, the position, and it's been like an extended transition because of the circumstances, and just the different things that are going on at the church. So that's been fun. Kind of, I haven't really done too much in my new role yet. It's kind of like making sure that my old role is that he knows how everything's working, how
He's
we have
dotting
stuff
all
set
his
up. So
I's and crossing all his T's, minding his P's and
yeah,
Q's.
well, just like seeing how we have all the things dotted and crossed and teed, because like he knows his stuff better than I do. It's that just the way that our systems are set up. That's pretty much it. I'd say probably the one of the highlights of my 2 weeks is that last week. Spring break, that's what it's called. Here in Austin, Texas, we have a music festival called South by Southwest. It's not just music, but it's tech
Mm-hmm.
and music and film and stuff like that. We hadn't had it the past 2 years because of COVID. And so, can I say that on our podcast? I don't know. Is that a bad word? We say it all the time.
Well, as long as
Uh,
you don't say that trans women aren't real women, you
oh,
won't get
shoot.
banned from
Oh,
Twitter.
no. We're done. We're done. Now we won't. The Apple's not going to host our podcasts. And
Oh
oh, no.
no!
Wait, a man is a man and a woman is a no. Anyways, so South by Southwest happened. I didn't really participate that often, but my sister did come in from California, and she was actually in the past. I've been the one to like find all the free parties with free music and free drinks and free food and stuff like that. And she did it this year, so she invited me down one day, which was fun. That's pretty much all that I was able to go. But spent the afternoon downtown hanging out, drinking, listening to music for free. I mean, it was cool. It was fun. That's probably the highlight of it all.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Good
Deuce, we'll roll into you here. It has not been 2 weeks. You and I probably talked a little bit earlier today, but why don't you take this opportunity to just sort of tell us, or not? I know lots about you, probably more than I want to. Why
Who
don't you
you
take
are
this?
and what you stand for.
But like, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself,
A little bit about me.
just a
I
little
don't
bit, like the important
okay.
bits.
I am married to a wonderful woman who puts up with me. Uh,
Mm,
I have two adorable, loving children that
nice.
are a blessing and a curse all at the same time, and it's amazing. But um, yeah, so that's kind of like the family life.
Mhm.
I actually just kind of to your point of 2 weeks. I just finished up my second week of a new job last
Oh,
Friday. So
nice.
yeah, I hold a certificate through American Society for Quality as a certified quality engineer, which is just a really nice way of saying I sat through their test and I passed. But yeah, so I'm a quality engineer now, which is pretty exciting for me. I like what I do most days. But yeah, so that's the little bit about me, and then I'm a big nerd and I play horrible video games. So
Well, we will get into that. We will get
Dun
into
yeah,
dun
that.
dun.
But Parker,
Foreshadowing.
yeah,
it has been significantly more than 2 weeks since you were last on. I think the last episode proper we had you on was that was a while ago. It was
No,
probably.
wasn't it like two? Oh, that was a bite
I
size.
was
Never
gonna
mind.
say
That was a
that was a beefy bite size with Micah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
but what's new in the world of Parker?
oh well, your brother kind of stole my thunder because I also just started a new job here too. So
Oh
he and I
wow.
are new job buddies.
yeah,
So but yeah, so I'm a consultant and recently left DC last year. As soon as they cut the cord and kicked people out of the office, I was like, this is my chance to escape Washington DC. I did. I haven't looked back since, and so this is my first job after leaving one of the big four consulting firms, working for a smaller firm, doing something more in tune with what I'm interested in, what I want to do. So it's been about 2 weeks, really enjoying it so far, and yeah, so just happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. And speaking of like buddies and video games and all that, listen, boys, it's time to sort of roll into the backlog report.
The backlog report I've got.
These only the finest of Foley work here. We take our sound effects budget very seriously. We
We have
pay our
lots to
sound
report on.
engineer tons of money for that, and by tons of money I mean absolutely nothing at all.
When beating down your backlog, there's lots to report on. Got my report right here.
Josh, why don't you sort of kick off the backlog report, and
Oh my
then
gosh.
we'll repeat the same order. We'll go Josh, Deuce, Parker,
And then I guess okay. Then you'll finish it up. That
I'll
makes
close
sense.
this out. Yeah.
All right. Well, unfortunately, not too much to report on. Just been busy with life stuff. And then I've just been real tired too. Just kind of. I haven't been sick, but it's like after being sick and some of the kids still feeling the effects. Just tired, sleeping a lot. Trying to stay healthy. So, really, the only game that I've been playing is Dragon Quest XI, and just a little bit of that.
Ooh.
It's nice to kind of pick up and play. And I'm still, man, I think I just met the third like actual playable character in the game. So I've only had two up until this point, and that was like this morning while I was on the elliptical. So I'm still pretty early on, maybe like 7-8 hours or so into a like 60+ hour game, from what I've heard. and I can see why. It's already like a pretty big world so far, and I'm just digging, level grinding and stuff like that. I I know I could go through the game faster if I wanted to channel my inner Wesley Ray and just like blast through it, but like no, I want to fight all the different kinds of enemies and gain experience and stuff and be over leveled. That's just how I am. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing and digging it. In terms of, I've really only been reading for my class. I am digging the book. I brought it up last week. I don't know if you've listened
The
to it any
worldview book.
since then. Yes, yes,
I have
yeah.
not yet. I have not.
Okay, okay. But it's really cool. It's really interesting. I'm digging it. Yeah. But I mean, I quoted from it last week, and so that was pretty cool. But not really been reading too much else. One thing I did watch though, over the past week, set some time aside that my wife and I could just chill for an evening after the kids went to bed, and we watched a documentary that she had pulled up before. Like she had started watching it, but it was all in Japanese, and she was like, "You know what? Josh would like this too." So she stopped it, and it's a documentary on ramen that's on Hulu. It's called Ramen Heads, and it's basically about this guy who owns this ramen shop that's like known as like the best in Japan. And then it talks about a couple other people who have done ramen in different ways, and like this one ramen chef who got the first like Michelin star for just like making ramen and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. My wife decided that if we were going to watch that movie, that we'd have to eat ramen beforehand. That way, we wouldn't get hungry while we were watching the movie. Didn't matter. We still got hungry because like watching like the best ramen ever. It's just like, man, that looks so good and so much better. Like what we had was good. Don't get me wrong, but what they
But was it
showed
like
on the documentary,
Michelin, like
right, yeah,
Michelin
no,
star level
not at
ramen?
all,
I don't think so.
not at all. So I would highly recommend it. It was a really fun documentary on Hulu called Ramen Heads, and that's pretty much all I've been into over the past weeks. Not too much to report on there's really not too much written on these pages. It's a couple pages, but I used some 23-point font here, so sorry.
Well, Deuce,
Nice.
have you played, listened, read, watched anything interesting over the last couple of weeks?
Um, yeah, I buy entirely way too many games. So,
Mm.
dipping my toes into Triangle Strategy, um,
Oh,
hyper
nice.
carrying you two through Neo
He
2
doesn't buy
against
it physically.
Scorpion.
Like, listen, since you wanted to throw me under the bus earlier, pal, like, wrong venue.
Oh
I,
yeah, I'm a
I'm going to
I'm
air
an
some
avid
grievances.
advocate of digital copies only, because then I can call Nate and be like, "Yo, so I picked up Triangle Strategy, and my favorite moment is when he's like, physical or digital?" And I just get that
If, if
opportunity
it's
for
like
digital and
digital,
hear the groan of frustration.
I'm just like,
No,
dude, like if you buy it physical, then you can lend it to me and I can lend you stuff that I buy. But he's like, no, I
yeah,
At least he's honest
refuse.
about his self-serving motives behind the whole thing.
yeah, I'll pray to Jesus to forgive me for my selfishness there. Um, let's see. Kind of trying to work through the monster that is Shin Megami Tensei 5 as well. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
it's I take way too many games on at once. And then, as I said earlier, to reiterate, I play horrible games. I fell into the trap that is Destiny 2 all over again,
Okay.
and I picked up Witch Queen, so I've actually been going through that on my own just because that's what I do. But yeah,
Hmm.
so those were my games. Not really watching too much. I mean, I did watch The Eternals. I wouldn't give
Okay.
it a good rating. It wasn't that good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I was impressed with Shang-Chi. That was pretty awesome.
Sweet.
Um, and then, yeah, following up with a good old Disney Plus Hawkeye. And
Okay.
I don't know, mixed feelings on that one. And then books, I was at my men's retreat actually 2 weekends ago, 3 weekends ago now. And I just got it about a week ago, but it's a book called The Story of God, The Story of Us by Sean Gladding. So I'm going to dig into that eventually here soon, maybe, possibly. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. How about you,
Dig
Parker?
it.
What have you been into?
Well, I recently actually got a Switch, which my company paid for because it fell under a wellness subsidy. So right before I left, I
Stop.
was like, "Why don't you guys?"
It's time for me to air grievances. This dude does not pay
Wait,
for his
was your Switch
consoles.
physical or digital? Was it physical or digital? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Dude, it's called business
it's
savvy.
it's digital, so I can't loan it to you, Nate.
Dude, when he told me about this the first time, but when he worked for the company that he worked to prior to this, part of their wellness policy was like, hey, we're going to give you X amount of money to buy things for mental health and wellness. And like part of that like covered like gym memberships and stuff. They also covered console purchases. So this goober, like
Nice.
basically got his PS5 and an Xbox Series X, and then following it all, a Switch OLED, the nice shiny white one, for like very, very little out of his own pocket. I'm not going to say nothing, but very little, very, very little. And it's like, I'm only bringing this up because I am insanely jealous. I wish the post office offered those kind of incentives.
Don't forget the Power Play 2. He doesn't even play it handheld most of the time. He docks that bad boy.
Like a boss, yeah.
Like a boss. OLED, I don't need it. I got a
He's saving the OLED screen. He's like, I'm going to save this. Anyways,
exactly.
yeah. I'm done airing my grievances.
Yeah. So after, I mean, I guess the quick and dirty is after being a long time PlayStation only guy, having the opportunity to have somebody else pay for my consoles has opened up my aperture for gaming, so to speak. So last year when the Series X came out, I kind of went down a tour of the history of Microsoft, playing all the Halo games and Gears games and stuff like that. This year it's been the year of the Nintendo Switch so far. So got the online membership, went back and played through like the original Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3, and some of the classic retro console stuff there. But also been enjoying. Let's see what else. Dipped into the Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2. Those are pretty excellent. Played some Paper Mario. That was good. And of course, I mean, if you have a Switch, I feel like you have to play Breath of the Wild at some point just to say you did it. So.
So
okay, so just and again, brief side tangent. I was gonna find a way to work this in and browbeat Josh a little bit. Josh likes to play this game called Poke the Bear, right? Where he
didn't even bring it up.
That sounds like a fun one. I want to play that one too.
No, so yeah, you're right. You didn't bring it up, but you left the opportunity to sort of like just take some salt and just rub it into
I didn't even bring up the comparison, okay?
No, but as soon as the opportunity presented itself, you were like, "Yes, I'm going to jump on this train and just harangue Nate."
I agree, sir. I agree. It wasn't even directed towards you. You jumped in later. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Anyways, it was stemming off of Breath of the Wild and its placement in relation to another game on our top 100 list. Yeah. And I was amused, but I was also exasperated because I was like, how many times do I have to say the same things over and over and over again? No, it was fun. It was fun. And I was only half serious. But the half of that of my little diatribe in the Discord that was serious was super serious. It's just up to you to decipher which half was the serious half. Anyways, that being said, sorry for the rabbit trail. I'm just like salty about Breath of the Wild talking in my Discord. Anyways,
yeah. You enjoyed your time with Breath of the Wild, I'm assuming?
I have, yeah. It's not like I love the simplicity and the minimalism of the game and the exploration and everything, but there are other games that I started playing that I just set Breath of the Wild down to play. And sometimes it's like, yeah, this is a great game. This is like, a seminal game. It's super influential, but then there's other stuff that's just like the junk food of gaming that you just gravitate toward more naturally that you want to play. And for me, I think that's Xenoblade Chronicles for sure. So
Interesting.
I
That's
paused
cool.
on Breath of the Wild, and where it was easy for me to put down Breath of the Wild, I could not put down Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or 2.
Wow.
So tells you a lot
Nice.
about how lowbrow my tastes really are. But but I do have to say, Dragon Quest XI. I'll put a quick plug out there. That's one of my all-time favorite games. So
Ah,
cheers to you
nice.
for digging in on that one. I'm
Awesome.
jealous. It's your first time. I wish I could experience it all again for the first time too. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's just been little spurts so far though. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually a game that one of our patrons nominated for us to play. So I actually have to pull the trigger and make the time to sort of work my way through it. And it's one of those things I am very much looking forward to that experience. But I did mention in the Discord, like, I'm a little like JRPG'd out right now. So I'm kind of like trying to sort of um, I don't know. When I drove big truck, right, we call this thing called like finding the gear, and you would sort of float the clutch around a little bit and just try to find where, like, if you didn't always know what gear you needed to be in, because there's like there can be 18 gears, 15 gears. It's been a while since I drove a
Man.
big truck, but there's a lot of gears, and it sounds way more complicated than it actually is, but once you get used to it, it makes a ton of sense. Anyways, but sometimes you got to like float around a little bit until you find where it's sort of like the truck wants to be. And I'm trying to find that spot where it's like, okay, like, yes, here's where I can engage with an RPG, like a turn-based JRPG again. Because I chewed through Final Fantasy 9 just a little bit ago, and
Yeah.
that kind of that worked me over a little bit. But anyways, anything else you've been into, Parker? Like any good flicks, any good shows, any good books recently?
Not really so much on the movies and TV side of things. I don't watch a ton of TV or movies. Books, I kind of went old school. I've been reading the original Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. So it's it's pretty thought provoking and deep. I feel like I have to read it in pretty small bursts in order to
Hmm.
sort of like sit back and digest what I've read, because it's just an incredibly dense book. But yeah, I mean, it's excellent. So if you get a chance, check it out.
Yeah, no, I
For sure.
wholeheartedly sort of also recommend Pilgrim's Progress. It's one of those books that I do have to sort of like. It is difficult for me to read because it's just like the most basic allegory slash metaphor on the face of the planet. And there's a part of me that very Tolkien-esque in my sort of perspective, where it's like I hate allegory. Um, and I mean, I tolerate it, but but yeah, Pilgrim's Progress is absolutely like sort of required reading, and it's not bad. I'm just saying, like, I kind of like, I'm like, I just want somebody to like come through and just write a less, just a version of it where the allegory just isn't laid on thick. Like, I don't know. I don't have a great allegory to describe my loathing of allegory. Anyways, all that being
I feel
said,
Analogy?
like everything I say is bringing up feelings so far for Nate tonight. I'm afraid to put anything else in the chat here because he's just got the feels tonight. So
well, no, it's like Pilgrim's Progress is great. Like I said, it's just there's a stylistic choice that I'm sort of like, yeah, and that's more probably just because I'm a snob and a contrarian, and I like to just sort of like turn my nose up at all sorts of good things just because I can. Anyways, as far as my backlog report goes, as far as games go, I mean, I've been playing Neo 2 with you guys, and that's sort of been like. Now, I've also been playing it on my own because at this point in time, we're sort of just drilling down on the campaign, the story bits for Parker. And then like I go back and I sort of like I'm actually like into the loop of the game where it's like I've found a play style and a build that really suits me, and I sort of get into it. And so yeah, that's been just playing a mess of that. When I'm not playing that, I have been sort of like chipping away at Link's Awakening. Although honestly, over the last couple of weeks, I haven't really put too much of a dent in it. I burnt through like the first like 3 temples, 4 temples, in just like the space of a couple hours. Just I was like, oh, this is great. Just sort of chewing through it, and I stalled out a little bit. I am gonna go back. I just like I said, it's just kind of Neo 2 has been sort of sucking up the oxygen in the room. And then as just far as something sort of even a little different, I did sort of add something else. And it's more of a sort of it's on deck more than anything else. I haven't actually played it, but I decided to pick up the nonary games, Josh. And I'm gonna sort of chew
I
through
like it.
those on. I was like, I haven't played my Vita in a while. I think I also have
Nice.
it on my PS4/PS5, but I was like, I just, it seems like something I could just sort of like, grab my Vita, maybe, sort of in bed, play it for a few minutes before like I conk out kind of stuff. Or, just like, I know it's not a super chill experience, but it doesn't seem as sort of, it doesn't seem like it's going to require the energy or the sort of like when I'm playing Neo 2 sort of like, it's like you're all in. It's like it's a
Yes.
Souls
Yeah.
like, and it's like
Hmm.
if you're not paying attention, you're gonna get punched in the face like repeatedly. And
Hmm.
sometimes even if you are paying attention, we're just gonna like kick you in the junk repeatedly, just because like the game likes to, you
Yikes.
know, it's. I mean, it's like, listen, it says a lot about the way I feel about myself that I willingly subject myself to these things. Um,
Uh,
all that being said, that's sort of what I've been playing. As far as what I've been reading, no books no books really specifically. I've been reading some essays on compatibilism, which just sort of I recently engaged with someone on. I don't, because this could potentially turn into an episode, and I don't want to sort of leak too much. But I
Hmm.
recently reached out to somebody and talked to them about sort of their misconceptions in regards to the historic perspectives of Calvinism and the reformed positions on determinism versus compatibilism. And I would just sort of say, like, and again, I'd point somebody to chapters 3 and I think it's chapter 9 of the Westminster Confession of Faith, and I would assume similarly so with the London Baptist Confession, uh, the 1689 as well, because the LBCF is basically the WCF, only you guys got rid of the smart parts where we talked
The smart
rightly
parts.
so about the sacraments and church polity, because you guys had to like ruin a good thing. Anyways, all that being said, I'm also
And
reading
I'm the one.
some.
I'm the one poking the bear. By the way, I'm the one
Well,
who
hey,
wants to.
dude, it's like you wanted to take your shots earlier. What I say, sometimes you poke the bear and the bear turns around and mauls you. This is how the game works. Anyways, but so I'm reading some essays on compatibilism and the Reformed and the historic Reformed and Calvinist position on determinism and things like that. And it's just sort of, it's interesting. It's kind of weighty. It's required me to sort of go back and sort of dig through, older philosophical texts as well that I haven't sort of either dealt with in years or dealt with at all, just because it's sort of a position where I've known where I've stood and I know why I stood there, and I did the reading on it years ago. But if you ask me to go back, it's like one of those things. It's like I thought about this 15 years ago, 20 years ago or whatever it was, and now I'm like, well, I remember why I sort of got there, but it's also, yeah. Anyways, so that's
Sure.
sort of what I've been reading. Like I said, nothing, no major works in particular. It's just sort of uh, bumping around on a few different essays and some articles that Jared has put in, has sent my way, as far as that's
Sweet.
concerned. As far as I have been listening to, and again, it's sort of more in that sort of weird fiction, weird sci-fi kind of stuff. Um, there's a series of books, and it starts out with, like, I think the first book is called like The Torturer's Apprentice, or in the
Oh,
Shadow of the Torturer, and it sounds a lot more grim than it actually is. I mean, I'm not going to say it's like super friendly, because it is, um, but it's sci-fi, and it's sort of Uh, yeah. The guy. I'm just gonna look it up on my phone since I have the thing right here. Gene Wolfe is the guy's name. It's GeneWolfe. It's the New Earth cycle. There's four smaller books in the first one, and then I'm on the last larger work. It's I don't want to say pretentious because it's actually really stylistically pretty solid, but it's like really heady sci-fi. Asks a
Okay.
lot of really interesting questions. Sort of like plays around with time and reality, and it's kind of weird and goofy, and it's exactly the sort of junk that I like right now. So it's good, but it's also one of those things. Um, it's like the Vandermeer books where I'm like, yeah, these are weird. They're not for everybody, but I'm digging them. Um, anyways, and they spell Earth Urth. He spells Earth Urth, which,
It's
yeah,
funny.
it's a really interesting series of books. As far as watching things, I haven't really been watching anything. I'm like, yeah, other people should check this out. It's like kind of just like, do more of that slice of life stuff. There's some good bits in there. And I had somebody try and tell me that Taiga from Toradora is not a tsundere, and I'm just going to look at him and be like, dude, uh, dictionary.com would disagree with you. That's all I will say about that. Um,
Mm.
he knows
The
who he
airing of
is.
grievances.
The airing of grievances. There's been a lot of that this sort of
Yeah, in the Discord you just mentioned Taiga, and I'm like, Ultraman Taiga? That's all I know of. And
no,
then
no.
talking about some chick, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Dude,
no,
Josh,
that's
I would actually recommend Toradora to anybody. Like, it's a really cute
okay.
slice of life. It's pretty wholesome for the most part.
Mhm.
It's kind of it's a cute little story. It's
Cool.
fun. It's sweet. It's cutesy. So, and that's like that's where I'm at. Even though I finished that up a while ago. Anyways, um, but that sort of leads me on to just my beatdown score is still at 0 because I have not been anything
Mhm.
recently. Um, yeah, I'm really just at some point in time when we finally pulled the trigger on Neo 2. At that point in time, I think that might be sort of the impetus to sort of get some of the ball rolling on scoring a little bit. But as always, I'm going to sort of roll into my little spiel here. Just for those who have been following the backlog beatdown, the uh, Nate talk pretty someday. The GG app is the official app of the backlog beatdown 2022 season. We actually have the official blessing from the creator. He was like, I was like,
Mm.
we had him on for an episode, and he was like,
Mhm.
we were like, can this be the official, app of the backlog beatdown? And he was like, sure. You know,
He loved it. He loved the
he
idea.
he loved the
It
idea.
was
He was all about it.
yeah.
He
Mhm.
just ranted and raved and just, yeah. But it's basically a letterboxed app for your video game collections. You can rate and review the games that you've played. There's a bunch of different categories. You can create custom lists, and you can see what your friends are playing. There's a free model, but he also has some premium experiences. And the premium or pro members actually get early access. They can beta some stuff. Um, and Charles is a good guy. We love the app, and we love what he's doing over there. And we would be remiss if we didn't sort of recommend that you guys check it out. And again, especially if you're participating in 2022's backlog beatdown, and other things that we love doing this podcast, right? And hopefully, if you're listening to it and you've done the sharing and the caring, you've rated and reviewed, and you've done all the free things. If you were wondering how you could support us and support what this podcast does, maybe go a little bit above and beyond, we do have a Patreon. It's basically a tip jar. There are some perks. Patrons get exclusive content. There's video versions of the podcast. There's early access. Um, to the podcast. And patrons have a little more access to Josh and I as far as helping us to shape sort of just the general drift of the show. We talked about Dragon Quest XI earlier. Josh is playing that not only because he wants to, but because it was nominated by several of our patrons for us to sort of play through and do an episode on this year. And like I said, I will be getting around to it at some point in time. Those are just some of the perks to being a patron. So go ahead and check that out. Links are probably in the show notes. I'm going to assume that they are. And lastly,
Yeah,
Josh
they're there.
Josh is vigorously saying, yes, of course they are, Nate, you idiot. Yeah, that's what he communicated with that head nod. And lastly, we are proud members of the Playwell Network alongside the artist currently known as the Techno Funk Boy, our friend Paul, and Wesley Ray, the Henshin Dad himself. We love those guys. We love the content they make. And we think that you would probably like it too. So go ahead and check them out. And with all that being said, here's a word from one of them. And then Josh will insert the audio for one of them. And but anybody need a potty break or anything? A bio break,
No.
I've heard them referred to as.
I'm good, man. My bio's running fine.
Your bios
Yeah.
are not broken.
That's
All right.
broken.
Okay. Well, give me a second here. Let me limber up.
Uh-oh.
My back's just been bothering me. I should have mentioned that. I did something to my back last week. It was
Oh, shoot.
unpleasant.
Oh, no. Did you slip on ice?
No, it was actually a really nice day. It was like one of those things. Like it was like one of those things that actually I was on my way out the door and I like bent over to like pick up my phone or my wallet or something, and all of a sudden I was like, "Ow, ow, ow!" I'm old.
No.
And I'm dying. Anyways. All right. So, all right. Well, let's just sort of get right back into the swing of things here. That was actually a pretty good little clip there, about 35 minutes for the entry.
I dig it when you work on a time limit.
Yeah,
We
when
actually
we actually can be okay at brevity.
You guys
yeah.
can just pretend like I'm here every time you do the podcast from now on.
There you
Be like,
go.
yeah, we just gotta
It's-
leave at 11:30.
Not gonna work, really.
Let's go.
We can't disconnect ourselves from reality like that.
You could try. I mean, it's worth a shot.
But all right, and we're back. All right, guys. So you're saying like, and I alluded to it earlier here, but I did say that I have friends, and apparently that was even sort of called into question. But it's come up in the last couple of episodes, where I've been talking about like that Deuce and Parker and I have been playing Neo 2. But we've been sort of doing this co-op thing. I don't know. It's probably going on close to a year where we've been like Parker, I think a little bit longer for you and I, where we sort of were looking for co-op multiplayer games to sort of like chew through and just sort of hang out. But then we rolled Deuce into it recently. And there was probably, and I'm just sort of thinking about some of the games that we've played. We played the Division 2 together, and Deuce, you were sort of a hard carry on some of that as well. You had already sort of gone through a good bit of that, and you were just sort of like running alongside that content with us at times. Let's see, Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, Parker, I think you and I sort of romped through a good bit of that stuff together. I'm trying to think what else here. Was that Remnant from the Ashes? We all three of us did that together. I actually really like that game. I'm thinking about going back to it at some point in time. It's like one of those interesting ones that there was something about that game that really got its hooks into me. I actually wrote down, Parker, you and I actually played Streets of Rage 4 together, all 3 hours of
nice.
that. That was literally when I came to visit you before you moved from DC. I signed in onto your PS5, we downloaded it, and then we sat down and played it for like 3 hours and just beat it.
A little
which
bit of couch co-op for you.
yeah, we
Yeah.
did a little bit of couch co-op. And Deuce, you and I have sort of done some couch co-op years ago. I don't know if you remember this, Deuce. Um, Back when I was staying with mom and dad for a little bit, um, when they had first moved to Reading, I had that 360, and we played. What was that weird Norse game? Um,
Oh, too human.
Two Human. We played Two Human together, and we're like, "Oh, this
Yeah,
game's a hot mess," but we kind of liked it.
it was
Uh,
fantastic.
it
I
was
regret nothing.
it was trash, but I couldn't stop
Is
playing
is
it.
that where you got your nickname from, Deuce, from Two
No,
Human?
no,
You
no,
just loved it that much?
no. Literally, the Deuce just came from "There's too many Lukes," so it's easy.
Well, and
Too
it's
many humans named Luke. So
Yeah,
yeah, you
so
got it from Two
exactly.
Human.
Yeah, too
Parker
human.
and his brother were playing. What was that? Wild was it
Breakpoint.
Wildlands? Oh, it was Breakpoint.
Yeah, it goes
Par-
well both actually.
Yeah.
Ghost
And
Parker
Recon
Brothers.
Wildlands and Breakpoint.
yeah, Parker has two brothers, and so one of his brothers
The
was it
Parker
They
Austin?
make
brothers. Ha, ha, ha.
they make
Yeah,
tabletop games, right?
we do. Yeah, in our spare time for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
But they were playing that, and Deuce was on there, and it was just like I think there was a little bit of confusion, and just I'm giving a very abbreviated version of the story, but my brother was just like, just call me Deuce, and it's stuck. And
Is that where it came from? I meant to ask him like where the Deuce nickname originated from. If it
I
was
think it was literally because he kept saying Luke, and then we both kept answering. I'm like, you know what? From now on, just call me Deuce, and it was sort of like tongue in cheek, and then yeah, and in the
But
same
you've
fashion.
really owned it because your PSN name has
Go
has
big or
Deuce in
go
it now
home.
too. So
Go
it's
big or
like
go home. Own it. So
I love it.
but and it's sort of been funny because like I said, we grew up, and growing up, Deuce and I, we really only had an NES. But I think, like, even there, like, I recently played through River City Ransom. I think the two of us played a whole mess of River City Ransom,
yeah,
the original one
Nice.
together. Double Dragon 2.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like, it just like we've been sort of like, and there's 7 years difference between us, but we've always sort of played a lot of games together. At least when I have co-op. And there was a period of time where it was like as I was the older brother and I was like a little more capable or developed, where I would just like if we were playing something competitive, I would just mercilessly destroy him. And as I have
Uh,
gotten older and he has matured, that has sort of faded into the background. And more often than not, he's the hard carry, and I'm just like, what is going
Yeah.
on here?
You're just like bending over to pick up your phone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. And I'm like,
Being taken out.
my head gets, I pop up, and I'm like, what happened? Oh, we beat the game. Oh, okay. Um, but what I mean, is there anything else that? Oh, you know what? There's something. We are still airing some grievances. There
Oh
was
man.
something that we played last October, Joshua, that
Yes.
you
Mhm.
were supposed to hop on with us,
Yep.
and never materialized, bro.
It didn't work. Nope. Nope. Yep. I still have it
Nate
sitting
is
on the PlayStation. Yeah.
And well, if you wanted to go back into it, Parker was telling me that there was the PS5 got a native update, and it has
Mm,
like 3 different performance modes. Now, I know that doesn't help you any, but it has sort of like tempted me to sort of reinstall Dying Light and just,
nice.
or not Dying. I don't know if I said Dying Light 2 earlier, but Dying Light back in
Mhm.
October,
Yeah.
we were all
Mhm.
supposed to play, and just sort of we were actually this original idea for the podcast was like get all 4 of us on here, talk about Dying
That's
Light
right.
2. It was going to be a really cool Spooktober thing. And so I did want to just like talk about that because it's one of the more standout and recent sort of things. And this was actually one that um, Parker had played, I think, a little bit more of it than I had. I had been meaning to get around to it. I went hard down the rabbit hole, and we sort of roped Deuce into it. And Deuce was
Yeah, he
like, after a
jumps.
while, he was like hard out. He's like, I'm done. Um, Even though like because like and just like that that game gets spoopy times
Mm,
super quick, like the day night cycle. And at some point in time, I would like to just maybe have an actual conversation about Dying Light because I think it's there's a lot of really cool things there. So why don't we just sort of? I guess some of it is, um, how do I want to say this? I've just been thinking about this because like prior to the last couple of years, and it's not that, and again, like I said, I've sort of been dabbling with co-op, but the last couple of years, co-op has become much more like we actually look for games now, and we're sort of like, what can we sort of like throw into the roster? I think
mhm,
we were sort of actually, Deuce brought up Destiny 2, and we were actually having a conversation on trying to figure out how like because I was like my thing is like I keep hearing that this game is like the best thing since sliced bread, but I've also heard that with the recent sort of vaulting of content, that it's just very difficult to. There's no real on ramp to this game anymore.
mm,
Destiny 2 is a great game as long as you like Destiny 2. And if you
mhm,
don't, there's no real sort of easy entry point. It's just like, here you go. The Witch Queen is supposed to be all that in a bag of chips, but there's no way for me to open that particular bag without sort of just making a mess. And so we've actually, we've sort of got a few other things. Like I think so up on deck. I think for as far as our co-op slot, I think the tentative plan is like we're gonna go back through. We're gonna play through the Borderlands 2 DLC, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep or whatever that is. Then there's some DLC for Division 2 that we had never really wrapped up. So we're going to go through and sort of maybe drill through that. And then there's talk of us even potentially sort of dipping into co-op on the Scott Pilgrim uh, game. So
hmm,
we have a few different things, and I think that's one of the things like, and I guess this is sort of where we can actually sort of kick off the conversation, right? Is that what I've noticed is since we've started playing co-op a lot more, is that I'm a lot more open to playing games that I normally wouldn't have thought about playing. I've actually, and because it's sort of an easy access point, I've become a lot more interested in shooters as a genre because of this.
mhm,
Because it's like I liked Borderlands 2, and I like the Borderlands games as a general rule, but I went back to them, to sort of play with Parker and with Deuce. And then Division 2 sort of opened up the third person shooter, and it's, this is just a genre that sort of naturally has a lot of like co-op opportunities. And, but like I said, what it's done is it's sort of exposed me to a bunch of stuff that I wouldn't have normally picked up on my own. Like,
mhm.
even Neo and Neo 2, because I think, well, Parker, you and I co-opted the bulk of Neo, and Deuce, you and I played Neo a couple of times together as well. Um,
Yeah.
but like Neo was a primarily a co-op experience for me, and
Hmm.
like I was interested in the game, but that's sort of what got me over the and like really got me over the line was like this could be sort of something that I could jump in with a friend. We could do this together, and we could commiserate, especially in the case of like Neo. And I look forward to doing that at some point in time with Elden Ring. But it's just sort of like
Mm.
getting communally ground into dust and sort of just being like, this game hates me and I can't stop playing it. Um, but I wanted to sort of ask you guys, in particular, Parker and Deuce, like, how has the sort of the and Deuce, you've always played, I think, a lot more co-op than I have, and maybe even than Parker did. But like, let's sort of talk about maybe personal histories real quick with co-op, but then talk about like some of the ways that the last couple of years playing co-op has like some of the stuff it's exposed us to, and just some of the way it's even changed how we look at gaming and approach gaming a little bit more, because there's a whole bunch of stuff in here that will sort of like hopefully be able to sort of unpack and dig through a little bit. So Parker, why don't you sort of kick us off here? Like talk about a little bit about just the last couple of years as far as like co-op playing, and again, we'll just sort of we'll jump off from here and we'll see where we go.
Yeah, so co-op gaming, it's something that I've really been interested in and have been doing pretty heavy for a couple years now. And part of it is because I've got two brothers. They're both younger than me. They both live in different parts of the country. There's not a lot of opportunities for us to just do stuff together. And for guys, for men, I think in particular, it's just not that appealing to get on the phone and like talk about stuff. It's much more accessible to say, "Hey, let's do something together. Like let's play a
Mhm.
game together." And then you open up a voice chat line and there's an opportunity to talk just like you're on the phone talking about stuff anyways. So there's the personal connection, but there's also the sort of like male bonding kind of shared experience thing as well
Mhm.
that goes with it. So I found that to be a really good way to sort of like keep tabs on my brothers and connect with them. And, I've also got a buddy in California. And so he and I, it's one of our primary means of keeping in touch is we play games and we talk about life together, and that's in addition to obviously, you guys, where we get on usually once a week or twice a week or whatever, and just kind of hang out and talk and game and stuff. And where I'm not going to get on the phone and sit with an open phone line for 3 hours, just, chewing the fat. I will hop on a game and play through a game with somebody and spend 2 or 3 hours doing that. And arguably it's a better experience because, anytime there's some kind of like lull in the conversation or whatever, well, you're playing a game and there's no pressure. So it just feels like a really easy way to stay connected to people. And, it was something that I had been trending toward. And then COVID, I think, sort of poured the gasoline on the fire, so to speak, for that, where I think
Mhm.
it sort of opened a lot of people's mental headspace to doing stuff virtually and to connecting that way. And I think took a lot of the stigma away from like doing stuff online with other people because we were all forced to do that at some point during the journey. So, I think it's been a really good experience. I was kind of primed and ready for it pre-COVID, but I feel like, all through COVID and now sort of coming out of COVID or wherever we are with that, like, it's just been a really good sort of add to the video game experience as a hobby, to sort of like pull friends in and family members and stuff like that and be able to bring that sort of shared experience piece to what can be very otherwise a very solitary experience. So
Mm.
that's kind of my experience and where I come at it. But yeah, I've really, really enjoyed playing with my brothers, with you guys, with friends all over the country. And it's just a way for me to stay connected with folks and have a fun shared experience with people.
How about you,
Yeah.
Deuce?
Yeah, I mean, I I I kind of like just look back at that even like growing up, um even within my close friends, like we played games like Dynasty Warriors, and we did the split screen co-op, and that was everybody's played it. It's fantastic. Like I said, I love horrible games. I will die for that series, even though I know it's rancid do, but it is what it is. But that being said, like, uh, yeah, that's always been part of the way that I play games. I don't really know how to explain it other than like there's just something about being able to, even and then it was like the couch co-op aspect of just hung out with your friends and you had a good time playing through a game or beating levels together was always rewarding to me because it's not just about, okay, like I'm having fun, it's look at my accomplishment, but more or less like, hey, remember that one night, one of my childhood friends, his name's Mark Bound, but we called him Meat. Different story, we're not going to go down that road, but I remember Meat and I the one night, it was like a Friday after school, and we played from like 3:30 until like 4:30 on Saturday, just nonstop with Dynasty Wars. Things like that, where it's like, okay, we can't physically do that anymore. I think I would actually just keel over. But there's like always been a bit of a like a nostalgia or like a an appeal to it. And then you get into games nowadays where like and Parker and I have talked about this several times, like there's a lot of games out lately that were I think it's great that they're trying to do like a solo. I'll use the example of Elden Ring. Like everybody loves it. I think it's fantastic. I haven't played it, but everything that I've seen, I'm like, man, it's really cool to see what From Software is doing. But like I always get hung up with the biggest things like, well, it's about that solo journey, and Parker and I have talked about this. Is like I'm on board with him. We're like, I don't have time for that anymore. I
Mm.
have kids, a wife. I've got way too much stuff outside of work that's like, wait, so I'm gonna beat my head against the wall now, so to speak, with this boss till I figure it out. Like, nah, I'm good.
Well,
I'll just wait till I can play it with people.
I think
Um,
what's interesting, just sort of stepping in here for a second. What's really interesting is I think that Elden Ring is actually them. We lost Parker. Um,
dun dun dun.
Oh no.
maybe he'll be back. Um, but I think what's been really interesting with Elden Ring as a general rule here, I'm gonna just shoot him a quick text and just. Um,
I didn't know he had a hard stop too.
apparently he did,
And he's back.
and he's back.
There we go.
Yeah. I was getting ready to text you. But I think anyways, sort of going in there, I think what's really interesting about Elden Ring is that um I think even though the Souls games started out as sort of being a uniquely sort of hardcore single player experience, they've been making steps towards like, and even with Bloodborne to a certain extent, as early as Bloodborne, I haven't played Dark Souls 1 or 2 or 3 all that extensively. I know 3 is pretty much very similar to Bloodborne, but there is a co-op element. It's a little obtuse. It's not exactly like easy, and even original Neo's co-op element was kind of like, this is like, but it's there as an option. And I think that FromSoft is actually, it seems like they're sort of leaning into that, because I've basically heard that this is not only is it's still difficult, but everybody's saying it's the most accessible Souls like game out there. But it's that the co-op is actually a lot easier to access, and I really think that they recognize that these games, yeah, like, yes, there is sort of a special triumph in like when you can like solo, the super hard boss on the new game plus 10 times or whatever. But there's also like a lot of fun in sort of like, I mean, even in playing Neo 2, it's like it's been a ton of fun, because sometimes like even last night when we were playing, and it was like Deuce is like he's ahead of us by several levels, and like,
A
and
100 levels.
Like 100 levels.
I
Several
I
levels.
just hit 100.
Just a couple, a few, a
What
couple.
level are you right now in Neo 2?
Like 195, 194.
Okay, so he's like 90 levels ahead of us. But, and again, that's why he's the hard carry. But it's been one of those things where even there, like last night, we were going through this stage a couple times, and it was just like the game was like, oh no, like we're going to like, it's like, hey, run in here, and it's like, oh no, you all die. Um,
Nah.
and some of that is like,
Ooh.
like these games, like it's like, because it's like you get used to it, and you're like, oh, I'm fine, and it's like, no, you're not, stupid. Like, I'm going to punish you. But I did like, so I just wanted to say, like, I think honestly there's a special sort of like, I think honestly, I'm pretty much going to like treat Elden Ring like, I'll probably do exactly what I'm doing with Neo 2, where it's like there will be some content that I just solo, and where I'm just like screwing around and trying to like do stuff. But I really hope that I'm able to sort of like co-op a good chunk of that, just because I think it's gonna make everything a little more enjoyable. Um, but and I was thinking about it, like, and Josh, I kind of wanted to draw you into this. Like, I don't remember, like, did you guys, we sort of grew up in an era where couch co-op, and they talk pretty someday, but couch co-op was actually like kind of a big thing. Like, we had the
Mhm.
Mario Kart games, and I
Mario
know,
Party.
yeah, and like Smash Brothers and things like that, and Halo LAN parties, and there was a ton of that
Hmm.
stuff. I mean, the first time I played Halo 1 and 2, I co-op that. No, I played Halo 1 by myself. Then I co-op that with my buddy. We did couch co-op, split screen. My buddy Noah, and the two of us just sat down, and I think we played like through Legendary together or something like that. And then I think for a while, Deuce, we were even doing some co-op with our cousin Dustin on Halo 3. Um,
Yeah.
uh, on 360. But like I have memories of like playing Simpsons Road Rage with some,
Mm.
which is just like hands down, like if you're not going to play Mario Kart, like it's like Crazy Taxi Mario Kart kind of. We would do like competitive road rage, Simpsons Road Rage, where we would try to beat each other's times and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And it's just like you'd have these communal events, and I think it's just interesting that we live now in a time where that's actually like something that people are looking for and coming back to, and they're really actually looking for like the connective tissue, because it's like there's definitely something very cool. Like most of my games tend to be very solitary. Like
Hmm.
there's a whole pile of stuff on there, like well, and Returnal's got a co-op mode now, so like yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. That's now you guys need to buy PS5 so that I have somebody, yeah, I mean, to play Returnal with.
Yeah.
But it's something that it seems like it's sort of on it, and it seemed like the market for a while wasn't really paying attention to it, but it does seem like these games, like just the co-op experience in general, is sort of like coming back. Um, Josh, I did want to just sort of like get you to weigh in here. Like, do you have any like co-op memories, or like, I know that you have a couple little ones, and so sometimes you play
Hmm.
games with the kids and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
like, and I know that you didn't play it. You played some video games growing up, but like, did you have any like co-op stuff with friends, like Mario Kart or Smash or any of that? Or
Yeah, so when I think of co-op, what the system that comes to mind for me is Nintendo 64.
Mm.
Like that was like in its heyday. And I mean, like when I was younger, it was always older systems. I was never on the cutting edge of video games until like recently, until I've been an adult. And so like even if like Nintendo 64 wasn't the new hotness, like you could take that to a friend's house and bring four controllers and pop in, Perfect Dark or 007 or
mm,
Mario Kart
Mm.
or, something like that and just be up all night long, like the stupid whatchamacallit, the stereotype of like Doritos and Mountain Dew. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%, like it didn't have to be Mountain Dew, it could be a 12 pack of whatever sodas, but pizzas and chips and soda and like all night long, just having fun. And I did do that a couple times with one friend in particular, and he was more up to date with video games, but he did Xbox. And so we would jump online on Halo 1 and then kind of the lead up to Halo 2, and did that for a while too. So but that was pretty much the extent of my online gaming. I just never have really done much online gaming. It was like literally couch co-op online with him. That was a lot of fun. And then, like you said, kind of recently, like what co-op has been more like, if I can get my game, if I can get my wife to play a game, then we'll do some co-op every once in a while. We recently played through a few levels of Snipper Clips. Just some little things like that because she doesn't really play video games hardly at all. And then I guess that does remind me, of like some Rock Band and stuff that we used to play,
Mm.
years ago. That was big on co-op too. But you mentioned it, even just playing with my kids. There are some games where they like genuinely just have fun watching. So something like Pokemon or Captain Toad, we've played, or I've played, and they're just like pointing stuff out and telling me what to do and stuff like that. But then there are co-op experiences that I have with my son. He's super into Mario Kart right now, So playing co-op on Mario Kart 8 has been a lot of fun. And then also like Yoshi's Woolly World, we played through that one together, and some of the Lego games as well, or the Lego Marvel game we've played some. So really, it's been more family oriented, but you guys are giving me ideas. Like I love this. I love this. This is good stuff.
Mm.
I was gonna say, I think like, and it's talking about the sort of the co-op stuff. As far as like, it's sort of kid friendly, but it's also like a little. It can be a little bit much.
Yeah.
Castle Crashers, dude. Castle
Oh
Crashers is a
yeah.
ton of fun. Um,
Nice.
and it's, but yeah, that one might be sort of one to sort of just like maybe want to wait till Ollie's a little older for that one.
Okay. Okay.
But
Gotcha.
it's a good time. Megan and I played some of that together. Micah, actually, Micah Gear Solid and I played that together a little bit. He actually got me across the finish
Sweet.
line on that one. That was a game that I had never beaten.
Ah.
Um, just for whatever reason, just it was like one of those things where I just never sort of, and he and I sat down and just he sort of, like I said, got me across the finish line on that. um I did want to ask, so like we all have sort of preferences, like, and lately I've sort of, I mentioned Returnal, Hades, a couple years ago I was super big into Hades from Supergiant.
Mhm.
I really have been enjoying kind of like the really tight gameplay stuff, like Doom 26. Like gameplay has sort of been king for me lately. I used to really be big into JRPGs, but I did want to talk, and I mentioned it earlier, but like the fact of the matter is, like, since I've started playing more co-op, it's sort of opened the door for a lot of stuff, like, to me, for me to like consider even playing, or like, and it's not that, yeah, I can be a snob, I can be a bit highbrow, and like, again, I can just be like, oh, that's dumb, stupid Call of Duty. But
Uh,
I would even say like Call of Duty and was it Battlefield, like I'm actually kind of wanting to like maybe take a look at those, because I've been playing a bunch of other stuff, and it's like you hear about, like, and I enjoy shooters, and I'm like, well, I want to sort of see like what some of the best, I'm not going to play like the newest, but like what some of the best examples in the FPS genre are. And so, but,
Mhm.
and a lot of that has to do with the fact that, like, like I said, I mean, we played a whole mess of Borderlands 2 together, and then playing the Division, and I get it, the Division's, yeah, it's a third person shooter. But I just, sort of the question is like, and anybody can sort of jump in here, but the question I have is like, what have you guys, like, since we've been sort of primarily playing co-op, or in the co-op experience in general, like, how has that sort of expanded your horizons? Like, I honestly don't know if I would have picked up Doom 2016 if we hadn't spent all that time playing like Borderlands 2, and Borderlands a pre-sequel. Like, I don't know, like, and I could be wrong, but in my head it was like I played those, and then sort of jumped into Doom 2016, which I Doom 2016 is awesome. It's like one of my favorite games.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so I just, for you guys, like, has there been anything that we've sort of played, or that you guys have played co-op, where it might not be exactly your cup of tea, but you've sort of jumped into it and you're like, okay, like, and you've given things like a bit of a shake that maybe left to your own devices you wouldn't have, you know. And like I said, anybody can sort of jump in. So Parker, Deuce, Josh.
I can think of a couple things. First thing that comes to mind for me is my wife is not a gamer at all.
Mhm.
Sometimes, if it's a more family friendly game, she'll sit down and watch, and like actually she's the kind who like point stuff out. Oh, you missed that, turn around, go pick that thing up, or
Ah.
whatever. So she'll be like my my silent number two on the couch there, helping me sort of like scour the landscape or whatever. But she'll hop
Mhm.
in to certain very sort of like exceptional games, I would say, and play with me. And
Nice.
examples of that would be like Overcooked 1 and 2, which I think are phenomenal husband wife games. You just have to make sure your relationship is on really solid footing before you jump into a game like that, because you will want to raise
Uh,
your voice at some point during every session. But I think Nate, actually, you and I playing this phenomenal co-op game called A Way Out
Mm.
was a really interesting sort of prison break game, and it's the only reason why I even considered playing It Takes Two. And It Takes
Mm.
Two is a masterclass in co-op gaming experience in sort of the purest sense of like everything's cooperative, and you literally can't progress or beat the game without a partner sitting there playing with you. So and again, that whole husband-wife vibe of the game itself, and then playing it with my wife, playing as the husband and her's the wife, adds kind of like a unique dynamic to it. So that kind of has opened up experiences for my wife and I to play where she's not at all a gamer, but she'll play something like that, or she'll play Sackboy with me on PS5, or we played Cat Quest 2 together or stuff like that. But I'm thinking like there's just certain games that she's mostly not interested in, but when it comes to a game like that, she'll actually pick up a controller and play with me. And I mean, a game like that is really great. So if you're looking for good husband wife co-op stuff, I would definitely recommend It Takes Two and Overcooked 1 and 2.
hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, we played through most of the first Overcooked together. We could never beat the last level though, and we haven't gone back since because
My,
that one was
my
pretty
wife's
intense.
a perfectionist too, so she not
Oh,
only did we beat it, but she was like, no, we're going back and we're getting 3 stars on
3 stars.
every kitchen, every single kitchen. So
That's intense.
yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, when you asked the question, Nate, that's like what came to mind for me was like, yeah, there's definitely a handful of games that I've picked up not because I was interested, but because I was interested in playing them with. Yes, my wife came to mind, but then also my kids as well. Like I don't really care to play a Lego game. Like it just doesn't. It just seems like whatever kind of a thing. But I specifically have like purchased them to play with my kids. As kind of like an on ramp to video games. And then yeah, you mentioned Overcooked. I had said Snipper Clips. I know there's another one that I'm forgetting. But there's something else that I've played through with my wife as well. Well, my wife and I played through what was it? The Wii game, the Kirby game, Kirby's Epic Yarn, and that
Mm.
one's fantastic. Although I probably just because I like that series, I probably would have played that one by myself, but it was definitely a much better experience because I was playing it with my wife. And things like this might be a little different, but like I've purchased multiple Jackbox games, and those are like strictly, like co-op experiences. They do tend more towards like the board game kind of type of game where you play them with friends.
Yeah, Murder Trivia
Um,
Party is a bop, dude. It slaps. It's as the kids
nice.
say.
hmm It is lit on fleek.
Hmm.
I don't know what I'm saying anymore. That was like, a decade ago.
Deuce,
I mean,
I was gonna say like, dude, I know Dying Light was like not
oh, I
your
absolutely hate
pick.
it. If we're being honest, it's a horrible video game. But I care so deeply for other people. I feel just led by the spirit to weather those horrible, horrible video games. I just don't like zombie games. I mean, the closest you get me to a
Ah,
zombie game is like Resident Evil 5 or 6, which are like two notoriously worst Resident Evil games, but they're the ones I like
mhm.
because again, going back to the co-op aspect, specifically in 5, was always just a fun thing for me that it's like, hey, you don't have to go it alone. You can, but you don't have to. So that was always fun. But yeah, I'm like, there's just kind of that's the biggest or like the key example I have is like I despise zombie games. I think they're horrible. I don't know why people enjoy them. Specifically, I'm pretty sure I have multiple ulcers now that I can like point back to Dying
Nice.
Light as like the cause of them. Um, At least in my mind, that's what I'm gonna
Well,
blame it on. But it was fun. Like I mean, it was it was an enjoyable experience. Like I remember like the first time technically trying to just hoof it through an entire night cycle with you guys. That was as terrifying as that moment was for me, and I'm pretty sure I was shrieking like a little child as like the super zombies were chasing us or whatever. It was a good time, and I like so that was kind of me stepping out, but I've always enjoyed a lot of co-op games. I mean specifically like talking about Division 2, other games like that. There's something about in like solving puzzles that aren't these innate
Mm,
or intricate puzzles that take up hours and hours and hours, like what Bungie I feel like does with Destiny now, unfortunately a little bit. But like just that kind of relying on each other to kind of sort through the puzzle, so to speak, as a team has always been rewarding to me. So I always get excited when there's a co-op opportunity. But yeah, genre wise, like definitely like the horror games. I mean, pretty much if I can approach it with a group, I'll try it. But like Left for Dead, Back for Blood was another one that I tried to play it. Even though they queue you in with people, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this with random people. I don't trust them. I don't trust them. I'm not doing this. I can accept this about myself. Um, but yeah,
well, and I just like sort of touching on Dying Light here. I just remember one time we were playing, and it was I had dipped in pretty hard, and like I know Parker and I would just like drop a bunch of like gear for you. We were like, here's like a bunch of like really nice hammers and stuff. Like, you know, go bash brains in. And the difference, like what's great about Dying Light, in my opinion, is that it's really two different games that are sort of sandwiched right up against each other, because day cycle and night cycle are two totally different rhythms. Um,
hmm.
well, it's the same game, but it's like it's two like night. Yeah. Anyways, but I just remember one night we were out there and we were doing a night cycle, and we managed to just it was like four or five of those like super zombies, and the three of us are just like wailing mercilessly on these things. Like as soon as one would like try to like scatter away, like one of us would drop a flare and then just run in there and start just wailing on these zombies. And then we'd bait like another one in, and we'd like and we ended up, and I just remember like we're all like sort of like half screaming into the like going like, get him, get him, kill him, kill him. You know, it's like you know, you're making all the noises like you know, and it's I for me that's like one of those memories where it's sort of like burned into my head a little bit, where it's just like, and that was I don't know, man. I like yeah, it's spooky, but and I have a different relationship with horror games like than I mean, Deuce does, but like I kind of like them. Um, I don't like being scared, but I like scary games. Go figure. Uh, you know, and I would say like too. I think too. What's sort of been interesting is even at so we've been playing Neo 2, right? And Parker, you're sort of like at a point where it's like this is like really not your cup of tea. You're kind of like I have it and
Okay.
I'm playing it and I'm like but as we sort of go through, it's like it's sort of been like you're just kind of like, I guess. Like I can see why some people like it, but it's not necessarily for me. But I guess sort of tying that all together is what I've noticed is that as like the three of us as we play, it's like each one of us sort of fits into a role to a certain extent. Like I think Parker, you actually tend to be a little more jack of all trades, but Deuce is always very tanky. You know, he likes to face tank, and I like to be like I'm a DPS character, so I like to get in there and just like you know, it's like I like to just like splash a lot of damage around, but like as soon as I get hit, I die. I like to play glass cannons, and I feel like you know we have this sort of like rhythm too. It's like when we're at our best, it's like we're all sort of like fulfilling three different roles, but it comes together and it's some neat like synergy, and we all sort of know what needs to be done. We have not. necessarily always had that here in Neo 2, where it has been just a lot of like, again, the hard carry where it's like, Deuce is like, oh, watch me face tank this thing. And it's a lot. And then it's like, we come in and it's like, oh, and we die. But
Specifically Onishibata, which
yeah,
is like one of the toughest fights in the game.
dude, that
So
was, that was rough, dude. He was so fast and just I mean, you know, we were fight. He's a hatchet welder, but he's like this giant, super fast hatchet welding dude, and he just like rocked our faces last night several times. Um, yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. But I mean, it's just interesting to me how like even some of that just in play that sort of like comes out. Like even when we were playing Division 2, like each one of us had like a different sort of build style, and like you sort of dink around and you find the sort of like the build that works for you, and then like I mean that's been what it's been for me in Neo 2 is like literally I was kind of like in the same boat as you, Parker, where I was like, this is fine, like I can definitely see the appeal. But then like I got my build down with those fists and I was like, oh no, like I love it. Like I rip in there, I punch something a whole bunch of times, maybe I shoot it in the head with an arrow or I set it on fire or I explode it, and then I rip in there and I punch it a bunch of times and then it just dies. And I'm like, that feels good. Like I like that, you know? And but I guess you know, sort of have you guys had any sort of, well, as we're playing co-op, like I said, like the sort of like the different play styles have emerged, but like are there like any other things in this that has sort of like as we've been playing like that you've sort of learned about yourself or learned about, you know, maybe like each other as we've been playing through some of this stuff together, like it just like because I think that's the thing is like, Parker, you alluded to the fact that like this in a lot of ways sort of stands in like, and sometimes like I'll call you or sometimes I'll talk to Deuce on the phone for a little bit, but like this really stands in for like the really like the heart to hearts and all that stuff. It's like we hop on there for 2 or 3 hours and yeah, we talk about life, we talk about whatever, but we also like we're killing bad guys and taking their stuff. um you know, uh and I guess like, you know, and I guess sort of like this has led to, I guess, is some sort of growth. I mean, like, you know, not to, you know, sort of, you know, spill too much tea or, you know, tell anybody's business, but I know that when Deuce was looking for new jobs, like that you were really instrumental in sort of like helping him sort of doing like talking about some of that and sort of giving him some like tips and notes and coaching. And that like was happening while we were, you know, killing bad guys and taking their stuff. I mean, you know, um, and I guess, like I said, it was like, you know, what is something again, maybe that we learned about each other or learned about ourselves sort of as we were playing and as we've been sort of doing this over the last couple of years. Anybody?
I mean, yeah, you kind of hit it on the head. At least like for me, I don't know if it's so much about something I've learned about myself, but um, having that opportunity because Parker, you were saying at the beginning of this whole podcast that, um, and I agree with it that we as men at like some fundamental level are like opportunistic. That like if you can get us to plug into an activity, it opens up the doors for us to kind of peel back our layers, or I want to call them moles, but like our layers that we just naturally build up on as we get older for whatever reason. And so I just, you know, I've always felt that like there's, whether I can actually achieve it or even be part of the process, that like even on a more, I don't want to say spiritual, but like on a brother to brother in Christ perspective of it, that like that's something that I always feel is lacking within the church, because it's really easy for us to kind of just fall into our own rhythm and plug in and go to church. And some people are extroverts, so plugging in and developing those relationships like comes naturally. While for myself, I'm that weird, nice INFJ or INFP, somewhere in there, where I can be extroverted, but like that drains me. Like mentally, it just exhausts me. But being able to plug in and play a game where it's just, hey, let's have fun, let's have some laughs, and kind of pulls away some of that stress or that taxation that occurs with that. So like I've recognized, like, one, it's helped me to kind of plug in with people in a better way, rather than just turtling or isolating myself. And again, doing like the one, like, yeah, I still do. I think every guy does. We have our hobbies or our things that just we gravitate to for our own enjoyment or focus. But the co-op environment has just been awesome. Even before you guys, like, I had another group that I played with, obviously, and initially with that group it was fantastic, and like I can recall a lot of really good memories that just were awesome. But over time too, I think, like, especially as Christians, I would argue there's a bit of a conviction that we take advantage of these times, but we also utilize them the way that I feel that they should be, and that like you use this as an opportunity to engender real relationships with guys in the co-op environment. Not just so much as like, yeah, we play games together. It's like being able to key in with Parker about, hey, here's my job struggles, like I need input, or even just here's where I'm struggling spiritually, like, and getting insight
Mhm.
is just so valuable. So I guess if I had to say anything for me, what I've learned is that I need to step into this, and obviously Nate's my brother, so it's always been easy to go to him as the little brother and complain about all the things I'd like to do and then get insight. But yeah, the co-op experience in general, like, has just been an opportunity for me to open up and kind of step into a bit of uncomfortable or discomfort, I should say.
Mhm.
Um, and just be okay with that, but also know that there is a level of like, hey, I can trust the guys. Like, again, like, I'm not saying like, hey, go find three random guys and like we're gonna co-op together. Like, don't do that. That might not end well. But at the same time, like, yeah, like this is a it's a really good opportunity,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
just feel like there's definitely something within that guy is far smarter than myself. If they could find a way to capitalize on kind of building into it, like there's definitely opportunities um, for building faith with other Christian men.
Well,
But
just to
It's
sort
awesome.
of jump on that and sort of flesh that out a little bit, I think sort of what you're also pointing out is that playing the games gives you sort of a bit of an easy on ramp. Like it's
yeah,
very casual fellowship that can like give you sort of like low test ways to sort of have meaningful conversations that can actually sort of escalate into more meaningful conversations. It's like one of those things
yeah,
where like and it doesn't always turn out this way, but it's like it's sort of a low stakes environment that gives you an opportunity to sort of feel out the water, you know, um, especially like because like I mean, Deuce, you and Parker prior to sort of all of us playing games together a little bit, really had only met a handful of times. One of being which was like my wedding. Um,
yeah,
and now we're at a point where like you guys are playing like we're all playing games like again like once or twice a week together, and like we're sort of like it's that fairly frequent check-in. How about you, Parker? Just sort of what do you think?
What do I think? Boy, I can talk about anything. What do I think about what, I guess is the question.
I already asked the question. I'm asking you to sort of weigh in on what we've been talking about, you goon.
No, I mean, I agree with everything that we're saying here. I think there's as much or as little as you want to take away from this. I think, and
Mhm.
if you're just looking for
yeah,
an opportunity to just relax and chill and have fun and do something with friends and still sort of be in your PJs in your living room, like this is a great opportunity to do that. If you're looking to sort of like, build some deeper relationships or have some more, consistent connections with folks, that you maybe don't live near anymore or whatever, that you can do that as well. Like I said, part of it for me is like, keeping tabs on friends and family and folks like that. And this is like a great way to do that with, my brothers who maybe were not all super talkative to just pick up a phone, but say like, hey, let's just play a game together and stuff is, yeah, there's no pressure there. It's just about having fun and, hopefully you can sort of build from there. But, I think it's like, a lot of people can come to the table on co-op games and get a lot of different things from it. And like I said, even just finding things to do with my wife, and getting her involved in video games where otherwise she's not a gamer. And, there'll be weekends where we're just kind of tired at the end of the day, but she's like, hey, do you want to like play a video game? And, when we were dating, that was not on the table for us to do as a shared activity together. But now as a married couple, we've got a couple games that we actually look forward to playing together. And so there's another shared experience, like a husband-wife kind of thing too. So, there's a lot of different ways you can use it. And Josh, you talked about with your kids too. And so there's multiple avenues to engage with co-op games, whether it's couch co-op, online co-op, 2-player story co-op, MMO, sort of like, looter shooter co-op. There's a lot of different experiences out there and a lot of different kinds of co-op. They're not all created equal, or co-op's not all one size fits all by any stretch. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I see it as like increasingly more opportunity moving forward, for co-op experiences, new ones to come along, and things like I said, like A Way Out or It Takes Two, are kind of pioneering like what co-op can really be in certain ways where we've just not had games like that before. So to me, it's really a unique, exciting, interesting kind of way to engage the hobby, but also bring other people along for the ride.
Yeah. Josh, you have anything you want to weigh in on?
Well, I kind of a while ago I did a bite size on talking about like easy mode in video games, and I feel like I'm kind of making the same point that I did there as well, but like just along the same lines of what you were talking about, Parker, how it's almost like a different mindset, like video games, it's no longer just an end in itself, if that makes sense, like a single player, something that you do just to relax, but it's a way to connect with someone else. So like, the kind of the other side of the coin, it introduces you to new games. Well, yes, but it also, like, it's just a way to spend time with my wife, or it's a way to spend time with my kids and make memories, like just connect on that level where we're just having fun together, where it's not just about the game that we're playing, it's about spending time together. So whether it's whether it is the playing with blocks, or playing board game or something like that, or making up our own little game or whatever, like video games then falls in that genre, instead of like, oh no, video games is like, yeah, kind of the end in itself, the thing that I do. It's like, no, this is a tool to serve like the building up of that relationship, if that makes sense. And I think that's super cool that you can do that. And like, for someone who does play a lot of single player games, like, I kind of have to flip that switch that like, no, I don't have to make any progress in this game right now. Like, it's okay if we're not any good at this. It's okay if they're whether it's my kids, whether it's my wife, or whoever it is, they may not have the same amount of skill or understand the video game the same way that I do. And that's okay. I ought to be okay with it, like, I have to recognize that this is now, like, the video game kind of takes a back seat to the relationship that's being built. So I mean, I guess there's a little bit of a caution there, but by and large, I think that's really cool to recognize that just the way that we were built, Deuce, you talked about it, how I think guys in particular, just having a shared mission to do something,
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
no matter whatever it is, you know, whether it's like cutting the grass. You can't really talk when you're cutting the grass, but you know, yard work or something, just like accomplishing a project
If you
together.
can talk to a friend while you're cutting grass, that's pretty impressive.
That yeah, yeah, man. I don't know that I've ever done that before, but I remember like my brother and I we spent some time with our uncle who was out of town when he was building a new fence. He had just bought this house and he was building a new fence, so we like dug the holes and put the posts down and the
Yeah,
cement and all that stuff. So like I'm thinking of like a
yeah,
project like that, you
yeah,
know, like there's something about accomplishing something together, and when it's something just for fun, like that's yeah, there's something there too. So
yeah.
I think this whole idea of co-op, it it has a lot of potential, like we've been saying, to help build those relationships. And also this conversation makes me think that I should be investing in that more. Like this is a really cool opportunity that I think I personally need to think about how I can incorporate it more.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
thank you guys.
well, and you know, you always have an invite to Dying Light, um, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
but
Yep.
You can take my spot. I won't play once again, so by all means, step in. It's all you, bud. Enjoy.
um,
Nice.
you know, you said something there, Josh. I think something that I was just you talked about how like it's not always about making progress. And I
Hmm.
think one of the things that like one of the, you know, there's been like other personal sort of like, you know, just, and again, just sort of like the low level sort of investment in and sort of like, you know, cultivating and growing my relationship with these two dudes. But I think part of it though too, man, has been it really helps to break me outside of like, yes, we're still like, we want to like, you know, we play a lot of like co-op story games, and so like we want to make progress, we want to beat the game, but
Hmm.
in a lot of ways the making progress does sort of take a bit of a back seat, where it is more about just like, you know, engaging the game well. I mean, like we were Parker, I think you and I were talking about it like earlier in the week, just like trying to find like, I was one of the reasons I wanted to check out Destiny 2 was because I was like, it would be cool if we just had like a mutual playground game, like a game where it's like there were no real stakes, where we could just get on, like do some dumb missions and sort of like dip out and bounce out. Like, and it could just be like, we don't have an agenda for X, Y, and Z. So let's just fire up like, there's nothing sort of really pressing on the table for us to like sort of look at and play through. So let's pull up whatever. And so that's sort of, but, and in a game like that, like, and even there, it's like, which sort of actually bucks up against even sort of like the whole meta that drives like the beat down, right? Where it's like, you know, you
Hmm.
beat the games, and it's like, you know, obviously like, you know, we're going to beat Neo 2, and you know, we'll have beating the Divisions DLC, and like we're going to be beating stuff, and I'm going to be taking chunks out of my backlog. But that really is sort of taking a back seat to just like, hey, like let's look for like way like different things that we can sort of invest in and just sort of like hang out in, like you know, um and so like it's really, I mean, just for me personally, I think even sort of breaking that whole um have to make progress cycle, like you know, and I would just say like, and I've noticed that about myself over the last couple of years, and I would say that like this sort of like emphasis on co-op gaming has really sort of helped me to break some of the obligation that I felt. Like, you know, Logan from TRG talks about like how he doesn't use backlog anymore. He uses his gaming library. And I think really the co-op sort of helped me like playing more co-op stuff and sort of really investing more in just sort of like, you know, I'm going to say it's going to sound really cheesy and sticky and whatever, but you know, the journey, like it's more about just like it's more about just hanging out. Like the destination is there, yeah, but it is more about like sort of like the steps that we take along the way, which is really just, and I guess sort of like overall just sort of helped me in thinking about how I approach my backlog and how I approach games in general. It's like, am I coming at this with sort of like, you got to tick off this list and sort of bang these out and sort of move on, and this one's done. Yeah, sometimes that's still there to some extent, but it's taken the emphasis and the edge off of some of that. And that just is something, as like we've been talking, I was like, oh wow, and that's really in a lot of ways, due to growth and maturity. I've just been, we had Josh Loftus on a couple episodes ago and talking about like the necessity of being in the church. And I think too, part of that is just like, we need fellowship. And this has been like, our relationships with other believers really shape us in a way that is not always super, we're not always super aware of, but we need those relationships. And it's sort of been interesting over the last couple of years, just like how much I've sort of been, and how subtly in a lot of ways I've been shaped and changed, and just sort of making these games and these opportunities a priority. It's just, like I said, it's just something where I've like, it doesn't, you don't always have to put a nice, neat little bow on everything. But as we were talking, I was like, oh, you know what? Like, really, in a lot of ways, like, this is sort of shifted just even the way that I do approach games in general, where it's like that, got to beat it, got to move on, got to cross that one off the list. It's really sort of like, been able to sort of, pump the brakes on some of that. But
So the real question now is, speaking of the journey, when are you gonna embrace the Monster Hunter journey and join me in any of the titles?
Dude,
Nope.
I tried to play World or whatever on PS4, and by the
no.
time I got on that, everybody was like super leveled up, and I was like, and the combat's doo-doo in that game. Combat's doo-doo. Well,
isn't that like the game? What? I'm so confused.
I don't like the combat.
He doesn't like it because he's bad at it. I mean, it's not so much that it's doo-doo.
Like, yeah.
I mean, he's not wrong to some extent.
The combat's not like in comparison. So we're playing like Neo 2, and the combat's like super tight. It's like super fluid. It's like, if you're paying attention, like, it's like, I don't know. Monster Hunter is like, you get locked in your frames, and it's a lot slower. It's a lot chunkier. It's a lot. I'm not. I mean, like, maybe. I mean, it technically is sort of still in the pile. I'm just like, at some point in time, we may go back to it.
Parker tried Rise. He wasn't a fan.
I tried World, dude, or whatever.
It's the perfect co-op. It's the perfect co-op. You want to talk about team building? It's perfect. Like,
yeah.
You've got an objective you can plug in. It's little short missions. Just got to learn how to use
it's not
your giant sword. Or...
Nice.
I think it's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, you like Musou games, dude. Like,
yeah, I know. I love horrible games. I'm going to be their champion.
Oh man. Well,
yeah, I think Musou games are like the distillate. Like, it's just fun. Like, there's no substance. It's just fun.
Oh, there's absolutely no substance. It's like, you have an objective in a Musou game? What?
Yeah.
I mean, you're just not in there to just beat stuff up for a while and then be like,
mash the button and feel cool.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, dude.
Well, we got to start. We got to start winding down here. But any sort of closing thoughts as we sort of wrap up this conversation? Anybody sort of like any parting shots here? Any final airing of grievances?
I mean, I feel like that's what the Monster Hunter comment was, but
yeah, I feel like I tried, and I've been left on my hill.
Shut down. Sometimes the better part of friendship is just like looking at it and being like,
this whole podcast about co-op is a lie. All right, it's a lie.
They don't really want to try something out of there.
Yeah.
So
the crux is, when a hard game comes along, Nate says no. No.
I
I'm
just
just
I don't play
playing.
bad games. That's why,
Oh, you
anyways,
should
Shoot.
try it. It helps
uh,
you appreciate the good ones even more. Just
life
saying.
life is too short, dude. I'm a lot closer to that finish line than I used to be, man.
Yeah.
um, uh, well, I guess sort of as we're winding down, I did want to sort of say, thanks to both of you guys for, carving out some time here. Glad
Yeah.
to have you guys on. Uh, Parker, I know that you're not super present on the sociables, so I won't even ask you where people can find you because you actually sort of delight in your anonymity. Um, but Deuce, you are on social media. Uh, if you wanted people to find you, where could they find you? And so if you don't want
I
people
am
to
it.
find you, you don't have to volunteer that.
No, I
Josh will edit
mean
that out in post.
it's no, it's fine. I mean I'm in your guys' backlog breakdown channel, so
Yeah, both of you guys
uh
are in
Sweet.
the Discord,
it's
so
yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, if you can't find me, no offense to whoever might take this way, but that's kind of on you. It's on the nose. It literally is Deuce McIrish. I mean, it can't get any more blatant that like again Deuce to Deuce like.
I
But
think you
yeah,
should you should change it to Ready Player Deuce. Um,
well
Oh no.
maybe.
Oh
But
no.
yeah, obviously the biggest thing is like through you guys' Discord channel. If anyone wants to reach out, I'm pretty much again like I'm a big advocate for co-op games and uh I just enjoy it. I enjoy the opportunity to even play with people. If there's anyone that plays Destiny 2, by all means reach out. Or
Hmm.
again, I'm gonna go back to the one that everybody hates, Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Bringing it back maybe someday, probably never, but um, it's yeah, it's that would be probably the easiest way
it,
is just through
it's
you guys' channel.
it's
That's cool.
DEUCE. Do you have an underscore under there?
No, I think it's all
All one word, and
just
then but you do McIrish as MC capital K and then
yeah, and then just Irish. Yeah,
IRISH. Yep. And
yep.
I think
There you go.
that's your PlayStation tag too, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah. So if you look on Discord and you feel like it, you can always send me a friend request on PSN, and
Sweet.
I'll probably respond.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. Well, now that we
That's
know where to
awesome.
find them, Josh, where can people find
Hmm.
us if they want to get a hold of us?
Well, you were just talking about the Discord. A link for that will be in the description of the episode. Join us in there. That's where generally I feel like we're the most present. I know I've been not so present over the past couple weeks, but hopefully that'll
Well, you're
change
a busy boy.
as things start to settle down. Yeah. Yeah, that's just life for you. But if you do have other comments, if your co-op experience has been different, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at thebacklog@gmail.com. We also do have a Facebook group, the hashtag Backlog Book Club. And on Twitter, our handle is at BBDownCast. And then if you want to get a little bit more personal, I generally, on the internet, I go by Broccolope, and Nate goes by...
Nate underscore McKeever. So we sort of like we try to round this out with a little bit of a community shout out, and all I'm going
Mhm.
to say is we mentioned the Discord several times, and I alluded to the conversation, but there was a bit of an exchange in our top 100 thread about why Breath of the Wild was positioned by another game, et cetera, et cetera,
Mhm.
et cetera.
Mhm.
And I may or may not have gotten a little salty. Um, there's a very liberal use of Ron Swanson and Dwight Schrute memes and gifs being sort of applied. Um, I'm just saying, if you're interested in sort of what that exchange was, it's in there. And
for Sonic,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
guessing it was keyed in on the Sonic, huh?
oh no, it was
That was
just
completely different. All right,
oh
so you like to use Dwight
no.
Schrute and
Well,
Ron
I could
Swanson
reference that
a
too
lot.
in our book club hub.
Mhm.
I mentioned the fact that like I might be slightly amenable to tackling Sonic Mania as a potential book club game, and I
Mhm.
immediately regretted that statement. Immediately, like I knew even before I finished typing it, I was like, I'm gonna hate this. I'm gonna hate what happens. I'm gonna hate this. I hate everything. Which I actually think I
Nice.
responded with that Ron Swanson "I hate everything" meme or
Yeah.
GIF at one point in time. But it's if
That's
you
great.
want to sort of get the details on some of that, that's some of the shenanigans in our community. And again, we love those guys and we have a good time there. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. Well, Josh, Parker, Deuce, guys, again, it's been a night. I think we've sort of, of course, there's always more that could be said, but we
Mhm.
do sort of need to just really land the plane here. And, Josh, I think we did what we needed to here. What should everybody else do?
Guys, keep eating down your backlogs, and we'll keep breaking down the benefits.
Probably.
Probably. Maybe.
All right.
Possibly. It could happen.
That's a strong chance. All right. Well, that's it, boys. Now, I know that you got to sort of bounce out, Deuce. I'm actually just gonna hit stop here.